Hey, video 6. Let's talk about yeast cell counting. We're not going to get into a whole lot of detail because it's really better hands-on, but talk about a couple of things sort of preliminary wise. We're going to use a special kind of slide to count our yeast cells. We want to talk about why we count yeast cells. We count yeast cells when we're pitching yeast or when we're fermenting to make sure that we have, one, enough yeast that is fermenting to attenuate, to convert our sugars, our starches into sugars, make sure we have enough yeast to do what we need them to do. That's vital. So we'll talk more about that. The reason we're doing yeast cell counting, but we're really talking about how you yeast cell count. And yeast cell counting is a skill that all brewers and distillers have to have. This is a basic skill, and we're going to teach you how to do that. And we use a special slide called a hemocytometer. Hemo actually means blood. Hemocytometer is red blood cells. So this is originally used to count blood cells. Now we have machines, take a blood sample, throw it through the machine, and it counts people's cells, white cells, red cells, whatever. But used to, you have to look at them under a microscope and physically count them. So this is what we actually use to count yeast cells by hand. So hemocytometer, these things are expensive. They're a really fancy, sophisticated slide for counting cells. In this case, we're going to count yeast cells. Pretty expensive, anywhere from 180 to 300 bucks a piece. The more expensive ones you get, the better they are. So you do get what you pay for, but you want to keep them in their case, be well protected, because they're glass. They can break quite easily. So here's our hemocytometer, where we're going to eventually count the cells is in these two rectangles, this rectangle or this rectangle. These two rectangles have grids on them that we're going to lasered microscopic grids that we're going to use to keep up with our cells that we're counting. Again, we'll talk more about that. But I just wanted to show you this hemocytometer. There's the hemocytometer itself. We, again, keep it protected. We need to keep it nice and clean with our lens paper, and we can clean it with our, in fact, we can clean it with our vinegar solution. So we're going to keep that area nice and clean. And we'll learn this technique. We're not going to do the technique right now, but when you come here, we'll be doing the technique and how we will take the yeast, dilute it. So we have the yeast solution. Here is a cover slip, which is glass. You can see that. Delicate glass cover slip that we will put on top. Let's put this here, maybe a bit easier to see when it's on a white background. Okay. So we put our cover slip, and again, we're going to do the technique when you get here. I'm not going to worry too much about it right now. But this cover slip goes on top of our areas that are gridded off, where we're going to be looking at our microscope to count the cells, and then we're going to squirt, if you will, our yeast solution underneath that slide. So let's say we have already done that. We're going to take our slide, and I'm going to remove the cover slip just so it doesn't fall off. But when the yeast solution is under the slide, it's going to stay on pretty easily. But let's say it's on there. We're going to take our slide. We're going to put it in our mechanical stage, just like we do any slide. It's a very similar shape and size. And where we are going to be counting, where we're going to be looking, is in one of these two middle rectangular areas. Let's open up our our aperture. So let's use the one that's closest to me. So we're going to center that area in our microscope. And then eventually we're going to get everything into focus. And you may be able to see it. I can actually see it. You can see where the microscopic grids are that are lasered in. And that grid pattern looks like that. And we'll talk about this later when we come here and do this technique. But I just want to show you loading this slide in, and we get it in focus the same way. We're going to move it up. We're going to get it into focus. Not in focus yet because it's not moving. How do I know it's in focus? Because it moved it. Ooh, boom, there it is. It's moving. I've got it into focus. And what you'll see here This light needs to be really low to see these grid lines because they can be difficult to see when you first start looking. But anyway, and we can get into focus as we do typically. But we'll do all this when you get here. All right, let's end that.